Okay, so let's get going with the free will versus determinism debate, okay, which is a huge debate in psychology and in the whole of human existence, okay? But I'm going to try to make it as simple as I can. At least I've got a very simple sheet for you to learn, and I'm going to explain this sheet in as much detail as I can so that you can really grasp this debate. To get a good mark on this, you really need to understand it. It's not enough to learn the sheet. It will show when you write your answers if you haven't understood it. Okay, so let's get going. Right. Free will determinism in this issue and debate section demands that you learn all of these 7 key terms and just expand on them to make AO1. That's all you need to do. So let's go through them. Free will equals the idea that humans can make choices that are not dependent on biological or environmental factors. So you can make a choice that is not dependent on your biology, on your genes, on your hormones, on your brain, on anything in you or anything that is outside of you, like your mum and your dad, your environment, your school, the weather, whatever you want, okay? All right, so if you want to know if you've got free will, I'll just give you a little task, okay? Have a go with this. It's good to just try it out. I'm sure you might have done this already in your school, but if you've not, it's fun to do. I want you to write down things you've done of your own free will today. E.g., I chose to have toast. I didn't have marmalade. I got on the bus. I walked to school. I didn't talk to my friend. I did talk to my friend. All the things which you think are your free will, if you believe that you have free will. Okay, make a big list and switch off the video. Off you go. Huge list. Right. Now you've made that list, okay, and you're now switching on the video. I want you to go through all of those things and think, was there anything which had an impact on me making that decision? Was it the weather? Was it something in my environment that made me decide to walk to school and not get the bus? Was it the fact that there weren't any buses, they were on strike? Was it the fact that my friend wanted to walk? Blah, 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 blah. You've got it. Or was it about my biology? I was feeling sick, so I decided not to ride on the bus. I was feeling hungry, so I ate this much or that much, okay? So was it from inside your body or was it from outside of you? Okay, so write down, go through the whole list and write down a big B if it was something in you that made you do that. E.g., I decided to have the toast because I don't like stale bread. I don't know, I'm saying stale bread. I decided to make a bit of toast because that's how I like my bread. Or I decided to make toast because there wasn't any cornflakes. It's something outside of you. Or I get sick if I eat cornflakes, therefore I had to choose to have toast. That is your biology has determined it, okay? So go through it all and put a B if it was your biology and an E if it was something outside of you, environmental. And now just stop the video so you can do that. Okay. I bet you there isn't one thing left on your huge list of free will that has not got a B or an E beside it, right? And if it has, stick it in the comments box below and I'll discuss it with you, and I'll find a way that it won't be your free will, because it can't be your free will, because everything is either biological or is due to the environment. Why is that? You need to write this down, okay? It's because according to science, not just psychology, all of science, We live in a causal universe. Everything has a cause. It's a cause, then an effect. An effect is just something that has happened because of a cause. It's very interesting, isn't it? So you have to think about all this stuff and you'll be fascinated by it. I hope you will, because then you'll write a fantastic 16 marker or a shorter answer. Okay? All right. Now let's move on. Hard determinism. What is hard determinism all about? I don't know why I've got number 3 here and not number 2. I guess it should be number 2, okay? Hard determinism means that there is no free will, okay? And that we have already demonstrated that, okay? And I've just talked about the fact that science is causal. So I've just explained that. Everything which exists must have a cause. And if it's got a cause, then it's absolutely not in our control, okay? Soft determinism is the one that we tend to think of as real determinism these days. We like this one. The idea that, well, okay, the one thing I can control is my mind. I have got some room for manoeuvre in my thoughts, okay? And therefore, even if I didn't choose my parents or choose my hair colour or choose my body or choose where I went to school, and even if you think, well, my parents chose where I went to school, but that was all to do with things around them, okay? They had to choose, where you live. They can't send you to school in Edinburgh if you're living in Brighton. Well, they could do, but there would need to be something else in place, okay? So cause and effect, cause and effect. There isn't any free will, but in our thoughts, we can think what we want, e.g., I might think I'd like to walk on the ceiling. Well, actually, I can't. By the laws of physics and gravity, I cannot walk on the ceiling, on the earth anyway, okay? I can't walk on the ceiling, and there is no way to take my ceiling into space. So I can't walk on the ceiling. But in my thoughts, I can be jumping up and down on that ceiling right now. It looks like I've got some free will. And that is soft determinism. Okay? Now, this really big determinism is a biological determinism, which affects many things in our bodies and many disorders, okay? So, this means that all of our behaviour is coming from our body, and that our body is coming from our DNA, therefore it links in with genes, okay? So you are basically a bit of a robot that is already, programmed by your DNA. And everything about you is, controlled, if you like, by that DNA. And that would be absolutely anything about you. E.g., here's an example on here about stress. So if you're doing stress in your A level, you'll know that stress is actually controlled by the nervous system and the pituitary gland system and the stress hormones such as cortisol and adrenaline and noradrenaline, okay? And you will know all about the pituitary glands and the medulla and all the rest of it, okay? You'll know all the ins and outs of the adrenal glands, and the pituitary glands, the adrenal medulla and the adrenal cortex and cortisol and so on. Great. But how does that happen? Well, that's a fight and flight system which is inbuilt in you and in all animals to help you survive. You are not in control of it. You can't say, I'm going to stop my adrenaline. Yes, you can take some drugs, okay? You can take some drugs, but those drugs are only able to do according to what your biology would allow them to do, okay? So you can try to control your biology, but ultimately you are controlled by it to begin with. Therefore, that is a biological determinism. Yeah? So many disorders have genetic components, okay? And even if we accept that there is nature and nurture, go and have a look at that debate, this only means that there are double the amount of determined factors over which we have no control. I'll say it again. Even if we accept there is an interactive thing going on, nature, your body is really interacting with nurture, the environment. It only means there are double the amount of uncontrollable factors and determined factors over which you have no control. E.g., let's use anorexia because some of you may have been studying it, or you can think of schizophrenia in the same light. Either way, there is a genetic component to anorexia and to schizophrenia, and you may have the DNA which is giving you a vulnerability to those two disorders. But you need a trigger in your environment, such as you got a family dysfunction to give you schizophrenia, or a schizophrenic mother to give you schizophrenia, or you may have an anorexic mother. No. What you may have is a mother who is obsessed with food and is always dieting, and this has made you get obsessed with it and you end up being anorexic. But look at it carefully. Okay, your genes are not in your control, that you've got the DNA for anorexia, the DNA for schizophrenia, but nor is it in your control that your mother's freaking out about diets every day of your life and you're obsessed by food, or that you've got a schizophrenic mother that's not in your control, or that you've got a trigger of a dysfunctional family. Think about it. None of it is in your control. Therefore, everything is determined. Okay, that's a biological determinism. Even if we put nurture into it, even if we bring in environmental factors, it just means there's more things out of our control. And environmental determinism is, what I've just been talking about, that everything in our environment will make our behavior different in some way. Even if we have the DNA for certain things, we can be altered by our environment. So Skinner, the famous guy with the rats in the rat boxes, okay, behaviorism, he said, free will is an illusion. Okay, and he was the one who gave the rats electric shocks, and he conditioned rats to do horrible tricks and stuff, okay? Or you could think of operant conditioning and things like that, that's Skinner. Or you can think of the classical conditioning of Pavlov. All of these are environmental deterministic guys. They are saying we can manipulate you. You don't have any free will. We will condition you by our manipulations to behave in the way we want you to. So there's no free will. You can't escape. Even if we learn our behavior, like Bandura, says, Bandura, the learning model, it all depends on what's going on around you. So if you learn to use a gun, well, you need to have that TV on and see how people use guns. Your dad has to have a gun. Your mum has to have a gun. Something has to happen around you for you to learn how to use a gun, right? But you are not in control of that. You're not in control of it. It just happens to you. So again, you are not in control. Everything is determined. Crikey, it's not looking good for free will, guys, is it? Once you've done this, once you've really understood this, your whole outlook on life changes. But it's not a pessimistic thing. Wait till we get to the good old AO3s, yeah? Finally, psychic determinism. Freud has now come in the argument. So we've just had the biological model. We've just had Skinner with the behavioural model and Bandura with learning theory. Now let's bring in Freud. Freud argued that free will is also an illusion. Why? because there are so many things going on in our good old unconscious mind. Remember the iceberg theory, yeah? That is the biggest part of your mind, according to Freud. And in that unconscious mind are a bubble of uncontrollable desires and fears and phobias and goodness knows what that you cannot control. And therefore, you haven't got any free will. They're just in there. Well, how did they get in there? Well, mostly from a trauma in your childhood, very, very often, not always. You have no control over that. When you're a child, you have no control over anything. Things just happen to you. And these, of course, eventually will, make you have many defense mechanisms such as denial, repression, and so on, okay? And this will therefore drive your behavior. You've no control over any of that. What happens to you as a child? No control. All your defense mechanisms, which you develop in trying to get away from your reactions to things like going into denial, you've no control about that. So, once more, no control. Okay, so hard determinism, no control. Science says the whole universe is a causal, so you've no control over it. You didn't set it up. You are just reacting to things all the time. Soft determinism, okay, well, maybe I can be free in my thoughts, okay? Actually, Freud would argue, against this even, maybe. He would say that all your thoughts are coming from your unconscious mind. That's a big AO3 point if you want to bring it in, guys, okay? Then we have the biological determinism. All of our body is completely set up from our DNA and it's just automatically running and we have no control over it. Environmental determinism, as Skinner said, we can be manipulated by so many things and we can be, conditioned and operantly conditioned and classically conditioned and we have no control over it. It just happens. I'm not talking about in the lab, I'm talking about in real life, yeah? When you get sort of classically conditioned and you develop a phobia. Okay, so go back and look at phobias again for that one. And of course, Bandura. We can learn things all the time from what's going on around us. We just have to copy the behaviour. We don't even know we're copying the behaviour. We just do it. And it, but the main thing is we can't choose what behaviours are around us. We can't protect ourselves. Things just happen to us. We have no control. Environmental determinism and psychic determinism. Our unconscious mind is flooded with things that we didn't even know were in there. No control. All right, it sounds pretty hard going, doesn't it? But let's have a look at the AO3 points now. So those 6 points are all you need to learn and all you need to talk about to explain the free will and determinism debate. Now, let's evaluate it. Okay. So for evaluation, I've made it so easy for you guys. I've got a point that is a plus for determinism and a point against determinism, and the same for free will. So let's just go through them simply. The case for determinism is this. If psychologists accept determinism, we are on a par with all the other sciences. And, because I've just said, science is saying we have a causal universe, a deterministic universe means the same thing. And all of nature is orderly. Okay, so we are in line with science. Now, by the way, if you really want to be deep here, not all scientists and theoretical physicists particularly believe that. Some of them are all for chaos theory, and all stuff like that. But hey, listen, guys, we're doing A-level psychology here. Let's just learn the sheet, okay? But anyway, you can think about it later. All right, so why is this good? It's really good for psychology if we take the point of view of everything being determined. Why? Because then we can create wonderful therapies and wonderful drugs to control people. Wow. We can control their mental illness by CBT therapy. We can control them with antidepressants and anti-schizophrenic drugs, antipsychotic drugs. So it's hard to say that anyone would choose to be a schizophrenic. Okay, here's another point. And therefore, how can there be free will? Okay, because who would actually want to be schizophrenic? That's another point, okay, that we could say that who would want to have all these horrible mental illnesses happening to them? But that's a particularly tricky point to make because some people actually, e.g. anorexia, although we don't choose to be anorexic, not that I'm anorexic, by the way, although people don't choose to be anorexic, if you've done that, you'll know there is a psychodynamic explanation that you may choose to not eat to get your own back at your mother, for example, because then she's got to feed you like a baby and take care of you again. So that last point, it's hard to say anyone would choose. I put it up there. It's an interesting one, but I do want to leave that out of our view. Just go for the thing. Psychology likes a deterministic universe, and it works well for psychology because then we can make people better. We can manipulate people. We can change people's behavior for the better, obviously, not in an evil way, but for a good way, all right? The case against determinism, right now, it is not consistent with our legal system because that legal system demands that all offenders are morally responsible for their own behaviour. Right, I'll try and explain this. When you commit a crime in our society, you are supposed to be repentant and you are supposed to say, I made a choice and I did the wrong thing. Well, that implies that you had, guess what? Free will. You've got to have free will to make a choice, haven't you? So if you go into a court of law and say, hey, my lord, I've done this behaviour and that behaviour, but it was just my genes. I couldn't help it. I've got the MAOA gene and I am just so aggressive. Please let me off. It's not my fault. Well, we wouldn't have a legal system, would we? We wouldn't be able to put anybody behind bars because everybody would say it's my DNA. Okay? So to have a moral society where there is right behaviour and there is wrong behaviour, we can't go along with determinism. We can't accept it if we really want to have a moral society, because morals demand that you make a choice. You're going to do the right thing or you're going to do the wrong thing. And if you say, I haven't got any choice, my genes made me do it, my genes are responsible, then we can't put people away for doing crimes. We can't even say you shouldn't do that and you shouldn't do this. We can't even have any rules in school, really. You could just say, well, you could go to your teacher and say, well, I couldn't help it. It was my body, it was my biology, and blah, blah, blah. Think about it. Actually, that might be happening sometimes. You might say, I can't listen to the lesson, I've got bad period pains. I don't know. I'm just making that up, Okay. But the thing is, right, on the whole, it's the legal system we're concerned with here. And the legal system is very important because all of our society depends on our ability to punish people who do wrong. And if we can't punish them anymore, then how are we going to stop them doing things? Society could become chaotic. Okay, so that is a very important case against accepting determinism. It doesn't mean it isn't true. okay? But if we accept it completely, then we haven't got a legal system anymore. You have to think about these a lot, okay? Right, that's determinism, and absolutely done and dusted for AO3. Now, let's go on the other side of it, free will. What is the case for free will? Because we've just completely ditched it, haven't we, in this video? We've completely explained, and you have demonstrated with your list, I presume, that you haven't got any free will. Well, face validity, okay, remember research methods, seems to imply that we do have free will. We seem to be choosing everything. I've just chosen now to uncross my leg, take my shoe off. Wow, that was my free will. No, it wasn't, because my leg was aching. Oh, God, I wasn't in control of that. Oh, never mind. Okay, but on the face of it, yeah, we choose to do things every day, don't we? All right? So when it says, when it says there are lessons looked at this, I mean that little task I gave you all before. Okay? And even when we look at lock, okay, remember lock, okay, the locus of control, those who have an internal lock are less inclined to have lots of mental illnesses like depression. And those are the guys that feel they are in control. So feeling that you are in control, even if maybe we don't have any free will in reality, makes you feel good. So let's support it. Let's say, just believe you've got free will, even if you don't have any, because that's really good for you. So that is the case for free will. Okay, the case is again that we seem to have it, and we seem to believe that we have it. And it's a good thing that we think that we've got free will, because it makes us happier. It makes us feel like we're in control of our world, even though we're not. It makes us feel happier. Okay, so that's the case for free will. The case against free will is that neurological studies in decision making have shown consistent scientific evidence against free will. This bit, guys, is scary stuff. Google this stuff. Okay. E.g., I just get this one. Many researchers have replicated this, okay. They have found that when you have to make a decision, and they've got all your brain wired up, okay, and they can see what's going on in your brain activity, you've got to make a decision to push a certain button with the left hand or the right hand. You have actually made up your mind 10, not 9, not 8, not 7, not 6, 10 seconds before you say, I've made up my mind. Your brain is actually clicking off on the right or left side before you say right or left. Wow. You are, I am, we all are a robot. That's a case against free will, guys. Okay, it's a fantastic debate, isn't it? Go through the video again and again, make some notes. I hope I haven't driven you crazy with it, but I think it's one of the best debates, okay? I think it's probably the best debate, because you could think about this all day and all night and never get sick of it, really. Okay. All right, so that is the issue and debate, free will versus determinism. You don't need to learn one single thing more than are on these two sheets. Okay, good luck to you all.